Hey everyone, this is Pop Goes the Stack, where emerging tech trends go to be unpacked, interrogated, and occasionally roasted. I'm your host, Lori MacVittie, still waiting for an AI that understands sarcasm, and I've got Aubrey King this week and co-host Joel Moses, who may or may not be AI generated. Say hi.
Hello, how are you?
Hi.
You just don't know, do you?
Joel is totally AI generated.
Yeah, totally.
We think so. He'd have a better voice if he was, which is perfectly. It's a
Thanks,
good
Lori.
segue.
Thanks, Lori. Appreciate that.
Oh, and I made him feel bad.
No, that isn't possible. And I got to tell you, it's been a secret until now, but I fall asleep to Joel's voice every night.
Oh,
Wow.
is so
Soothing.
Sweet. That's so sweet. No.
Nobody tell my wife, right?
All right, let's actually talk about what Google did recently. They decided that we didn't really want answers. We wanted a podcast about our questions. So they have audio overviews, and it's an AI generated summary read aloud, like a status update from a very chipper intern who thinks bar graphs are passé. So we're going to talk about the slow death of dashboards, the rise of narrative-driven interfaces. That scares me. And what happens when even your status updates come with background music and maybe a "Hey there" vibe? Yeah. Well,
right.
it is. It's, once we started talking about we need AI assistance so we can, interact with our infrastructure, with our applications, our APIs, our systems in a more natural way. Come on, it was always going to go to voice, right? I mean, is this what we want?
Yeah, for those who don't know what we're talking about, you can go into Google Search Labs right now. So just off Google, you can search for Google Labs, and one of the elements is called Search Lab. And so these are projects that they do to kind of enhance their search engine portfolio. And they added this audio overviews, but they kind of it doesn't just give you an overview. In some cases, in order to make the answer more entertaining, it formats it like a podcast with two hosts yammering at each other. Does it sound familiar to you in any way, Lori? It's a novel way of expressing the answers to your questions, but it takes roughly 40 seconds to generate this podcast approach. And I'm not really sure it's that much more efficient at conveying information, which I guess is an object lesson for those of us that do podcasts, isn't it?
I feel attacked and seen at the same time. I'm conflicted. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't
That's
know.
typical of AI technologies.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think it's an interesting experiment to do it on search because that's obviously what Google does.
Yeah.
Right. But when you start thinking about things like, your status updates, what happened last night in the SOC? Maybe for an executive who's, got a busy morning or, doing coffee, maybe they want to listen to that instead of read it. I mean, is that something we want?
I mean, I'll tell you one thing I really like about it, and I'll tell you one thing I absolutely hate about it. I'll start with the hate, because that's where you naturally go. I don't like that this seems like the death of the podcast. I don't like that. I like to hear opinions from real people, and having someone tell me the answer to the question that I asked directly, but format it like a podcast seems to cheapen the value of the opinion expressed in podcasts. So I don't like it from that perspective. But what I do like about it is an attempt by Google, I think. I don't know, I wasn't there, but it's an attempt for them to address the learning styles that people have. And some of those learning styles are different. And an auditory learning style, being able to listen to something and gain better understanding than seeing it written, is definitely a thing. And I think that the answer to your question being read back to you in kind of a sing-song way helps some people grasp the information better. And so anything that can help a non-traditional learner, I think, is a good thing.
I said to you guys before we started recording that I feel like the amount of time is sort of unreasonable. I feel like I could actually vibe code a program to tell me how to do the thing.
40 seconds is too long for you, Aubrey?
But that's the thing. If I asked somebody a question, if I said, hey, how are you doing today? And it took them 40 seconds while they stared at me and went, that's not going to work. You know, it just doesn't.
You have teenagers? I mean, come on. Like,
Yes, I do. And I do get that sometimes. I do accuse them of being AI as well occasionally.
Yeah, it did remind me a little bit of the early days of web search, where results were not instantaneous like they are today. Where, you know, you could sit in front of the Alta Vista search engine and it might take 40 seconds for your query to come back. But yeah, I found myself kind of waiting, and that was a little uncomfortable from a search experience. I imagine because this is a labs engine that's being tested here, that they'll work on the performance of it, and this is just the first cut. But it points the way to what they're thinking in the future, I think.
Well,
Sure,
but when we saw like AI start, right, it's always been like, it's got to think, right? Oh, I thought for 20 seconds even. Now, if you take that and you open an app on your phone and you hit a button and it takes 20 seconds, you're already calling somebody and canceling, right? We don't tolerate it. But with AI, we started tolerating it in part, I think, because we attribute more human characteristics. Oh, it's thinking. Well, give it a second. Be patient. Right? So it's actually changing our tolerance for latency in some situations. So maybe that wait isn't that bad. Hey, if I don't have to read 2 screens and it's just going to tell me, you know, maybe I don't care.
And that juxtaposes with what you want to really talk about, which is kind of the slow death of the dashboard in the AI world. You know, if the information can be expressed to you with just a little bit of waiting, and you don't have to watch a dashboard to light up instantaneously, instead, there's an AI assistant that is highlighting for you the information that you particularly find relevant based on other interactions it's had with you. That's interesting. That's an interesting aspect to this technology.
You know, the voice thing, like I think you said it, Lori, it was always going to go this way. It has to. I mean, we've got AI robots coming, and they need to be able to communicate with us how we communicate with each other. But at the same time, you know, I've had instances when I was, going way back when I was still in, you know, a production environment, working, you know, in service provider. 40 seconds could be the difference between a massive outage and a good day. So to me, I look at that and go, this is, you know, it's still coming. And I think you're right, Joel. I do. I think we're going to see the performance get better because of exactly the things that we're saying. And as far as dashboards are concerned, what that makes me think of is, again, going back to the production time in my career, we had the thing called Nagios, right, which told us what was going on in the environment. And I can't tell you how helpful it would have been to have had Nagios pop up on some speakers somewhere and say, hey, we got an outage on, you know, mail store 35 or whatever. That would have been very, very handy.
That used to be your job, though, right?
Watch dashboards.
To watch the dashboard and then get on the speaker and tell everybody about it?
Right.
Well, but that's always been a problem. I mean, dashboards are multiple visualizations and text. Mm-hmm. And one of the challenges in data visualization has always been, how do we convey this information to different audiences? Because someone steeped in understanding network or infrastructure metrics is going to be able to read a visualization very differently than an executive. Yeah. So how do you bridge that in a single dashboard? Well, you don't, or you have 20 of them, and now it's just become a confusing mess. But being able to just say, hey, this means X, or that means Y, and this is not good, may be, right, that at least higher level, right, that we need. And then you could drill down. I think you'll still have those visualizations. You have to see what's going on, but maybe that first line is more hey, something's wrong. There's an outage brewing. That node is flapping. What's going on?
You know, I think that we're on the cusp of something brand new, which, you know, observability tools have always been about find it first and then show it to me and then visualize it for me to help me understand its context. And now I think we're into what you described, Lori, at the very beginning, which is a narrative-driven interface. Now, don't just show it to me, explain it to me. Package it all together. Tell me what I'm seeing, and connect it together with other things that exist within the dashboard. A dashboard is a single pane of glass, right? Have we all heard the single pane of glass?
I've never heard
And
this before.
a single pane can only contain however much real estate that you have on the screen, but the context of an outage, for example, could be something that exists across multiple screens. You can only fit so much on a single pane of glass. So narrative-driven interfaces give you the ability to connect things that are off-screen, that are not on that single pane of glass, to what you're seeing on the screen, and that's a pretty exciting advancement.
Is that pain PAIN or PA?
Whatever works, Lori. Whatever works. Yeah, I've been pained by many a dashboard in my life.
Yes.
I feel like what we're really asking for here is the Star Trek computer, right? Just
Yes.
computer, show me X, and it can still show you that piece of glass or the dig down, because I'm not going to say the whole pane of glass, a piece of glass from the pane. And if you just ask for it. And again, I feel like that's coming as well. This whole thing really signals this verbal communication between ourselves and machines.
Well, I think it's the ability to question it more than just the voice. Like, it tells you, hey, this app is failing. Well, what does that mean? Right? Connect it, as Joel said, to things like business outcomes. Right. That disconnect has always existed. And it's very hard for someone whose primary role is just to keep a bunch of different pieces of infrastructure running and available to go, there's the business outcome, because sometimes they're not aware or they're not steeped in it and they don't really connect the dots. So being able to say, hey, we need to do something because we're about to lose, $1 million a second.
Yeah.
Right. Is a valuable thing. It helps prioritize. So being able to ask, well, what's the impact of that is really what we want, is that back and forth without having to go, where's Joel? And I need an answer to this because I don't, is this important?
Right. Yeah, it's pretty exciting. I think we're seeing the first kernels of some of this in just generic search results in a Google Labs project. But I like what I see to some degree. I don't necessarily enjoy the presentation. I don't want every single one of my search results to be read back to me by two very chipper pod host co-hosts. But that it is what it is, and it's an experiment. But I think it points the way to what you're talking about. The slow death of the dashboard as the central piece of monitoring infrastructures or understanding, the context of your email inbox, and the rise of narrative-driven interfaces where it connects together things that you don't see on the dashboard with things that are off the dashboard, things like business value, or this is what business impact something is having. I'm going to be really interested to see how that's balanced well.
Balance. One of the things I like about this, we talk about how nice it would be to be able to interact with operations and ask questions and, get a summary, whether it's a podcast or maybe, it's just a voice telling us. But what we're not really digging into is like that lower level, like, sure, this sounds all great, but the foundation for this, observability, there has to be AI, there has to be systems connected, there has to be so much laid down to get this to work in the first place. Like, we're already at this is what I want, but we don't realize how much work has to go into it, right? This is not just slapping it on the front end.
Right.
This also, again, going way back for me in the Wayback Machine, we had a situation in one of my employers where we lost a lot of employees. So we had to basically automate everything within a period of very little time. I mentioned the Nagios thing, right? We had a couple other ticketing systems also that were, if request tracker, things like that, if anyone knows the open source community. But one of the things that made that possible for us to scale as we had less and less employees was IRC. Okay. So we had a IRC server, and we had bots back then that were plugged
Sure.
into Request Tracker, that were plugged into, our Nagios and whatnot. And they would pop up and give us a summary like, hey, this machine is doing bad, and here's what's going on as a result of that. Or you have a new ticket in queue. Please take care of it. It's 9 days old, whatever. It would be so great if I could have had that speak to me. And just for the sheer fact of I wouldn't have to constantly have eyes on it. And I really like that. I appreciate that. And I can't wait for that to actually hit and be usable with less than 40 seconds of wait time,
Yeah, that's, IRC, Slack, Discord.
Slack,
Yeah, all of these have, right, easy, fairly easy if you know how to code, right? Mechanisms for inserting new functionality, building bots that you can invite in, that you can do things with. It's not a stretch to go, maybe that's part of the communication framework that AI, at least in an operational sense, is going to need to use, is something that's a little bit more multimodal, but then also, right, flexible, familiar, and extensible, because these things are going to be, you're going to have to plug in all sorts of interesting things.
I like what you're saying here, honestly, especially mentioning Slack. I've been, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but we've got these new labs for Dev Central right now where we're building AI and agentic flows and things like that. And one of the first things that I could use N8N to tie in with an agent for is Slack. So to be able to also tie into maybe a ticketing system, this has given me ideas maybe for a new lab. That'd be nice.
Yeah. I think the auditory cues is an important aspect of this. One thing auditory cues give you is the ability to hear them in the background without complete and total focus. Like even with Slack, if you want to see the alerts, you have to be watching for the alert. It doesn't instantaneously show it to you. Whereas with an audio cue, you can kind of not be focused on it. You can just you can be in the background, but it will alert you to something without you giving complete and total focus to it. So auditory interfaces, I think, are going to be very important for dashboard style systems to really come into their own in the AI era.
Yeah, I think that's important about the auditory cues, because we're so inundated with alerts and sounds and notifications from our phone. There's this one, ding dong, bing bang, pop, weird things.
Pop, huh?
Yeah, exactly. You can't even identify, right, what they are anymore. And you start just getting like, I don't even need to pay attention to it. But when someone speaks, right, as human beings, we have a natural tendency to focus more on human speech because someone's talking to me. I need to pay attention as opposed to this ding dong. So I think that's important, that this is a good thing to go there, also just for capturing people's attention to things that are more important, as long as we don't overuse them and turn everything into a podcast, right?
So we've delved into a lot of different things here auditorially. So what about the three things we want to have people take away from all of this? Aubrey, what three things did you learn?
I learned that Joel is AI. No,
You're right.
Honestly, this as far as learning, it's really made me think about this dashboard concept. It's not something that I really kind of gave any thought to about how we interface with with the things that are supposed to notify us.
Gotcha.
So yeah, for me, it's just that there is a new option coming that's not just a ding.
And Lori?
What did I learn?
I heard a ding.
I heard a ding. Wait, I'm distracted. That was my phone, and I don't know what it was because it happens so often. We turn them off, right? Three things we learned. I think two of them. One, this is cool. We are moving toward it, right? It's going to happen. I think that's the thing that I've learned, right? This was kind of sci-fi 2 years ago. Hey, we could. And now it's actually starting to happen. There's a lot more offerings that are providing these kind of like voice interactions into different kinds of systems. We're figuring that out. So gonna happen. Very cool. And the second one that I learned just digging in and thinking about it, is really the complexity underneath that. It sounds very cool. Hey, it's just an SDK, plug it in. No, if we want to use it within operations, it's going to take a lot more planning, more foundation, a lot of integration, and probably some strategy and thinking about it.
Yeah. I think my biggest takeaway from this is that Google has taught us that you can take the most humdrum of things on the internet, the humble search result, and you can produce a new format of it. And I think that the application of AI technologies to things that are extremely long in the tooth and overdue for a reboot is pretty exciting. So Search Labs is out there, and this is the audio overview feature, but they've got other features there that are increasingly being driven by AI feature sets. And so I think this is definitely a place to watch. The intersection of the venerable search infrastructures alongside new ways to represent information that comes from it is an exciting step forward.
Absolutely. It is cool. It is very cool. And I love seeing, right, that move toward now we just need a repository of voices so we can select the correct one for operations. Yes, we do. That should be a question everyone asks, is who's the right voice for your operations?
Christopher Walken. Yeah, that's it.
All right.
I want all my alerts in Christopher Walken's voice.
Right.
Samuel L. Jackson.
There you go.
Oh, wow. All right. Well, that's a wrap for Pop Goes the Stack this week. If you enjoyed today's interrogation, smash subscribe and then try emailing an AI some sarcasm. You'll get why we're still needed. We'll be back to grill the next shiny thing next week.